So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions have been looking for defensive line and pass rushing help for a majority of the offseason. Starting it off in free agency, signing Marcus Davenport before giving a massive contract to DJ Reader to boost their defensive line, before drafting Mekhi Wingo in the 6th round to boost their pass rush. And now the Detroit Lions have gone out and they have signed an edge rusher in undrafted rookie free agency, that being Ole Miss pass rusher Isaac Ukwu. The James Madison transfer to Ole Miss a season ago, and at both locations, he was a very, very good prospect. Now, Isaac Ukwu is certainly on the older side of prospects, likely being the reason he wasn't drafted, because he is 24 years old. He spent 5 or 6 years at James Madison University and 1 season with the Ole Miss Rebels. He played a little bit in 2018 as a redshirt freshman, but then was injured in 2019 and took a redshirt COVID year as well as an injury year in 2024. Obviously the COVID year, and obviously just wasn't able to play. But 2021, 2022, and 2023 were all really promising years. I think if he was just a little bit younger of a prospect, there's a good chance that he probably does get drafted sometime on day 3, because there's a lot of qualities to really like, and the Detroit Lions very clearly liked him throughout the process. So much so, in fact, that they gave him a $35,000 signing bonus to come and try out for the Detroit Lions, go throughout camp, go throughout the preseason, and see if they can find something in the older James Madison prospect. Now, Isaac Ukwu is a good, not great athlete, measuring in at 6'2", 261 pounds. He is very short for the position, but his weight is actually pretty dead on for the average of the edge rushers in the NFL Combine. However, what isn't average is his ability to bench press, apparently, because he put up 29 reps on the bench, putting him in the 93rd percentile all time for edge rushers at the NFL Combine. Great strength for a player of his size, and his explosiveness grade is right up there as well in the great category, with a 36-inch vertical and a 9'11" broad jump, giving him the 89th percentile for the vertical and the 81st percentile for the broad jump. He's a very strong and very explosive athlete off the line. However, his speed and agility grades are just okay. Running a 4.87 40-yard dash is slightly above average for edge rushers. His 10-yard split was a 1.65, ranking in the 77th percentile all-time for edge rushers, so above average for sure, but nothing necessarily to be super excited about. His agility score is a 4.5 shuttle, was slightly above average, and his 3-cone is a 7.35, is again just very, very slightly above the average edge rusher. Now, Isaac Ukwu is, again, a poor size for the position as far as height, but great explosiveness, good speed, okay agility, and really, really good strength for a player of his size. He's got long arms, he's got great length, and I think he uses that length to his advantage quite a bit. Now, as I said, Isaac Ukwu had a very, very tough start to his collegiate career. Enrolled at James Madison University in 2018, where he was redshirted. In 2019, suffered a season-ending injury, I believe in spring camp, and wasn't able to participate in 2019. In 2020, was injured once again, but had the COVID year, so was able to redshirt a second time. But in 2021, he came back from 2 season-ending injuries and played really, really well. Put up 9 sacks and 16.5 tackles for loss at James Madison University, before returning in 2022 to put up 7.5 sacks and 10.5 tackles for loss. In 2022, he was a unanimous first-team All-Sun Belt player and was one of the best edge rushers in the Sun Belt to come out of the conference. So good, in fact, that he was able to transfer to Ole Miss a season ago, where he didn't put up a ton of stats, didn't play a ton of minutes, but did put up 3.5 sacks, and I believe upwards of 6 tackles for loss, 6.5 tackles for loss, if I remember correctly, as a player that was really, really impactful for the Ole Miss defense in very limited reps at the position. So overall, Isaac Ukwu is a very interesting football player, right? And older, definitely took a step back statistically when he went into the SEC, which is certainly to be expected going against NFL caliber tackles week in and week out. However, despite that, I did think that Isaac Ukwu was a very interesting prospect. Obviously, enough so the Detroit Lions felt that they wanted to give him a signing bonus, enough so that Ole Miss wanted to give him a scholarship, enough so that a lot of people were really interested in in Isaac Ukwu coming out of the NFL draft. But for one reason or another, he seemed to always fly under the radar. Despite putting up 27 and a half tackles for loss and 16 and a half sacks in 2 seasons at James Madison University, he was never on any draft boards. He was never on any, watch lists or anything. And actually, going back to some mock draft simulators, he wasn't even able to be drafted. He wasn't even a name at the edge rusher position for some of the mock draft simulators that are out there. So he really is a prospect that flies under the radar, a prospect that nobody knows about, but I think will be a very interesting player to keep an eye on for the 2024 preseason, right? I got to keep an eye on at camp. I got to keep an eye on for the preseason. And especially considering the lack of depth at edge rusher right now, obviously you have Aiden Hutchinson, you have Marcus Davenport, you have James Houston, you have Josh Paschal and John Kaminsky, but that's 5 players. Last season, the Lions carried 7 into the actual week 1 of the regular season. So that leaves the door open for Isaac Ukwu to show out in the preseason. That leaves the door open for him to impress the scouts, impress the coaching staff, and it leaves him an opportunity to not only make the Detroit Lions roster, but potentially carve out a role for himself, not only on special teams, but as a rotational pass rusher right there alongside James Houston. And while I don't think Isaac Ukwu is necessarily going to be a big star player for the Detroit Lions, there very well may be a game where they rely on him to be an edge rusher, where they rely on him to get a couple of pressures, whether it be because of injury, because he just stands out, or just because he's a really good football player and they feel like they want to get him some snaps on the field. Now, I'm not going to clickbait you in this video. I'm not going to say that, oh, he's going to be the second guy next to Aiden Hutchinson. He's going to be the edge rusher too. He's going to be the guy we've been waiting for. But I do think there is some value to Isaac Ukwu. I think there's some good special teams value. I think there is some really good pass rushing value. He's not a bad run stopper. He's kind of just an all-around good, not great prospect who put up some really good numbers at a small school, went to a bigger school, wasn't great, but also wasn't very bad. So I think Isaac Ukwu is a very interesting prospect. One more time, again, the Lions very clearly believe in his ability, despite being an older prospect, which is largely the reason he went undrafted. Put up really good numbers in college. I think is going to be a very interesting player to look at in the preseason. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know your opinions on Isaac Ukwu down in the comments below, whether you were able to watch him at Ole Miss, whether you were able to watch him at Jackson State, what your takeaways were of him as a football player, as well as your opinions on whether or not he can make the roster in 2024. I'd be very curious what you guys have to say. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Definitely a shorter video for a lesser known prospect, but I think a very interesting prospect nonetheless. So with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go